Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a cloud architect, database administrator, or anywhere in IT ops, you already know the drill. Keeping a constantly growing cloud infrastructure organized, it usually feels like wrestling with absolute chaos. But today, we're going to flip the script and transform that cloud chaos into automated, streamlined governance. We're zeroing in on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, and exactly how you can use tagging best practices to effectively mandate order across your entire environment. So let's tackle the elephant in the room. How do we actually stop cloud sprawl before it even starts? I mean, when you've got dozens of users spinning up VMs, databases, and networks on a daily basis, how do you know what belongs to who? How on earth do you track the costs? To stop the sprawl from devouring your budget, it all comes down to how you categorize those resources from the exact second they're created. Here's our quick blueprint for today. 1. OCI tag types explained. 2. Designing your tag blueprint. 3. Enforcing mandatory tagging. 4. Configuration step-by-step. And 5. Limits and best practices. All right, part 1. OCI tag types explained. There is a really massive contrast between the two main types of tags in OCI. On one side, you have freeform tags. These are totally user-defined with no predefined schema whatsoever. They're highly flexible, sure, but they have incredibly limited functionality. Honestly, Oracle recommends using them mostly when you're just playing around with features or for very isolated use cases. On the flip side, defined tags. This is where the real power lives. They use a highly structured, predefined schema with explicit namespaces. If you want any real control, or more importantly, if you want to use cost tracking features, defined tags are an absolute non-negotiable requirement. Moving right along to part 2, designing your tag blueprint. For this, you really need to put on your database administrator hat. A rock-solid tagging structure means defining tag namespaces to group related tags together. Think of it exactly like a database. Your tag keys function just like database columns, and the tag values are the actual data sitting inside those columns. Building it this way lets you seamlessly query and extract all that vital metadata later on. Taking that database-style approach into practice, think about some standard tag keys. If you use classification as a key, your values would be things like prod, dev, or test to instantly distinguish your environments. Need to track the budget? Use a cost center key with values like finance or HR. You can even group related infrastructure across different resource types using a key like application LOB for line of business and assign values like ERP. This setup is a total game changer, allowing for incredibly efficient resource querying and cost analysis just by filtering for specific combinations. Okay, Section 3, enforcing mandatory tagging. This is a serious question for you. How do you guarantee that every single resource gets tagged correctly? Do you just shoot out a polite company-wide memo and ask users nicely to tag their VMs? Yeah, right. We all know that doesn't work. To actually guarantee compliance, you have to build automated guardrails right at the compartment level using a feature called tag defaults. Inside tag defaults, there's this absolute game changer of a setting called user applied value. When you drop a tag default on a compartment, you're making sure everything inside it plays by your rules. By explicitly selecting the user applied value option instead of just a lazy static default, you completely block the automatic assignment of tags. You literally force the end user to actively input that crucial metadata themselves the moment they hit create. And then, check out this beautiful error message. If a user tries to bypass your rules and creates a resource without the required tags, boom, it just fails. Now, as IT pros, we absolutely shouldn't view this as a bug or an annoyance. This is the ultimate victory for a well-architected cloud. This strict enforcement guarantees your resources are properly categorized for management and billing from the very second they're born. Let's jump into Section 4, configuration step-by-step. Setting this up is surprisingly straightforward if you follow these precise steps. First, log into your OCI console, head to Governance and Administration, and find tag namespaces in your root compartment. Second, define your tag keys, add descriptions, set the tag value types, and, crucially, check that cost tracking box if you need it. Third, pop over to Identity and Security, pick the exact compartment you want to lock down, and click Tag Defaults. Finally, create that default. Pick your namespace and key, and choose that all-important user-applied value. Just like that, your automated guardrails are officially live. Finally, Section 5, limits and best practices. Before we get too carried away with automation, here's a surprisingly strict reality check you need to memorize. The number 10. You are only allowed exactly 10 cost tracking tags per tenancy. Not 10 per compartment, 10 for your entire overarching tenancy. And here's the real kicker. That limit of 10 includes both active and retired tags. So you've got to be incredibly strategic about what you actually designate for cost tracking.
Next up, data size limits. You have a hard cap of 5K. That means your total tag data size, which encompasses all applied tags and tag values for a single resource, maxes out at 5 kilobytes of UTF-8 JSON data. Now, 5K of text is actually a huge amount of metadata for one resource, but it's an important architectural ceiling to keep in mind so you don't over-engineer your schema with unnecessary bloat.
To make sure your environment stays perfectly tuned, here's your final best practice checklist. First, always drive your defined tags downward from the root compartment to prevent messy tag spam. Second, remember that free-form tags literally cannot track costs or use tag variables, so use them sparingly. Third, secure those namespaces. It's super smart to create at least 2 tag namespaces, so you can strictly dedicate one just for those precious 10 cost-tracking tags. And lastly, if you need to make massive changes, please don't manually click around the console. Automate your bulk tag edits using the OCI command line interface.
Tagging is an immensely powerful tool, but let's be honest, it only works when it's actually enforced. We've just seen how to design the namespaces, lock down the compartments, and trigger those beautiful failure messages that keep your infrastructure spotless. But it really all boils down to one fundamental question. Take a hard look at your own OCI environment today. Is your cloud genuinely organized, or are you just getting lucky?